Yo, what's up guys, it's Offbeat here and welcome to this behind the bars video where I'm going to be explaining the background story and the inspiration for my track, First Love. So before I start, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who's commented so far. I've got some of my favourite ones up on the screen now. There have been some amazing ones and I'm really grateful, so thank you very much. So I mentioned in the behind the scenes video that if you guys had any questions about this song, to leave them as comments and I'd do my best to answer them. So stick around to the end of this video to hear them. So First Love is a story about my passion for music and how it got harder and harder to keep doing that as I got older, and also how I struggled kind of juggling that with business. And it's told as a metaphor using a love triangle basically, and I've got two different women to represent music and business. Well, it's based on real life experience. So when I was a kid, I just heard hip hop for the first time and fell in love with it. There was just something about it that was different to all the other types of music I'd heard. There was just something about it that grabbed me. I started rapping when I was about 14 or 15. Very different to the stuff I rap about now. Back then I was listening to a lot of gangster rap, a lot of American rappers like Ice-T and NWA. So my lyrics sort of reflected that, and I grew up in the countryside in the UK, so very different experience. But yeah, around about the age of 17, 18 I think, I released an EP with a mate of mine. We were a duo called the Breadwinners, and I even appeared on One Extra a couple of times as well when that radio station first started. So back then, there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that this was what I was going to be doing for the rest of my life. Like I was totally committed to it, and I genuinely thought that that was going to be what I did from now on. And when I hit about the age of about 18, I left home to go to university. And I'm sure this is a very similar story for a lot of young musicians, but basically being in a new city, very exciting, meeting lots of new people, partying all the time, studying a little bit at the time, I just got very distracted, and it didn't take long before music sort of fell by the wayside. I didn't actually stick at uni. I dropped out after the first term, but I got a job, and that just became another excuse for not really having time to do music. And people would ask me, like, when are you going to start making some more music? And I would always say, soon, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm just really busy at the moment, but I'm going to do it soon. But yeah, the longer I left it, the more difficult it became. And I think this is something that a lot of creative people can relate to, not just musicians, anyone that does anything creative, I think, can relate to this, that the longer you leave something, the harder it seems to get back into it, because you're worried that you're not going to be as good as you used to be. And as artists, as creative people, I think we've got pretty fragile egos. And that certainly was the case for me. You know, like I'd left it maybe 6 months, and deep down, I thought in my head, you know, I'm not going to be able to write lyrics like I used to. I've lost it. That was the big fear, was I'd lost it. So I left it, and I made excuses, and before I knew it, 10 years had passed. 10 years. And at that point, I just figured that like I was never going to make music again. And yeah, I just figured that part of my life was over. So in the meantime, I'd met and become really good friends with this guy called Jamie. And Jamie was self-employed. He had his own business already, very motivated young guy. And he knew that I was a designer, so he would win graphic design and web design work through his business and then just pass it to me. And I didn't really like my job at the time. In fact, I had been fired from pretty much every job I'd had up until that point. And me and Jamie were doing so much work together that eventually we were just like, we should put a name on this, man, and actually start a company. So we did. And in 2012, we started our own business. It was really tough at first, and we spent a lot of late nights, but eventually we started to get some regular business and some regular clients. And after a while, we got some fairly big ones, and we landed some pretty big work. So at our peak, we had something like 8 members of staff. We had this office, and it was all going pretty well. But deep down, I still didn't feel that satisfied or that fulfilled. I definitely preferred it to working for someone else, but still wasn't really what I wanted to be doing. So at the time, I was living with a French guy called Cyril, or Cyr for short, because that's easier to pronounce as well. And Cyr was really into music, and one night he texted me and said, I won't do the accent. He said, I'm going to this night. It's an electro swing night. Do you want to come? And I was like, what's electro swing? And he did a terrible job of explaining it, bless him, and I nearly didn't go. But at the last minute, I decided I would go, and yeah, it was amazing. I literally fell in love with it when I heard it. It was that same feeling that I had when I first heard hip hop. There was just something about it that just grabbed me, and I remember just watching it and just thinking like, this sound, this feeling, this type of music just sums up the kind of music that I want to make and the sort of things that I want to talk about and rap about, and the sort of sense of humour. This just sounds like it would be the perfect kind of soundtrack to it. So it made me want to start making music again pretty much instantly. And Sia ran his own small event at the time. It was called BORP. It was the Bristol After Work Party. So I'd had a couple of drinks and I basically had my arm around him and I was like, mate, this has inspired me to want to start making music again. If you book me for the BORP in 1 month's time, I will make sure that I've got enough material to perform a short set. And he agreed. And then the next morning I woke up and just regretted it massively. I was like, oh my God, what have I done? Why did I say that? And I was gonna cancel it, but I didn't. And basically I just thought, nah, I'm gonna do this. So I researched a lot of electro swing. Like I say, I fell in love with it, and I listened to a ton of playlists and just absolutely immersed myself in it. And I started writing, and the crazy thing was, the second I started writing lyrics, the second I picked up that pen, it all just came flooding back to me, and I remembered how much I loved it. And I just remember not only thinking how happy I was to be doing it again, but also just kicking myself that I hadn't done it for 10 years. And I was like, what was all the fuss about? Like this, I enjoy this and it feels good and it comes naturally to me. How have I managed to waste 10 years not doing it? So a month later, the BORP happened, and I was pretty nervous, obviously, and like all my mates came. A few who remembered me from like 10 years before when I had done it. Most people had sort of entered my life since then, so they never knew anything about me rapping, and they just came out of morbid curiosity, I think, more than anything, just to be like, what, Ollie raps? This I've got to see. So yeah, I was pretty nervous, but I stepped up, I did it. It went pretty well. I loved it, and I've just been going ever since. So after I rediscovered music, I became very passionate about it very quickly, and it started off as a bit of a hobby, but pretty soon I realised it was something I wanted to take more seriously. So it began to interfere with work and with the business, and I did try doing both, but basically I realised that my heart just wasn't in the business anymore. So it was a really hard decision to make. I felt really bad because I didn't want to let Jamie down, but at the same time I knew that I was kind of holding him back as well, because I was sort of, if I did stick around, I'd be dragging my feet. So basically in 2016, I made the difficult choice to leave in the end and to go on to try and pursue music. So that hasn't worked out quite as successfully as I would have hoped, but I have made a lot of progress since then. But the main thing is I'm just a lot happier because I'm being honest with myself and I'm doing the thing that I'm truly passionate about, or at least trying to. Initially I wrote this song a couple of months before I decided to leave the business, so it's actually a few years old, and I wrote it at the time kind of as a way to get it off my chest because I felt really guilty. I used the metaphor in the song of like a love triangle because that is literally how it felt. I felt like I was in a relationship with business and I was cheating on it with music, so it was kind of like a cathartic exercise to try and alleviate some of that guilt because I couldn't talk to anyone about it. But the other reason that I wanted to write it and to release it and share it with the world is because I wanted to inspire people basically, and I've had a lot of comments on this track and on this video from people saying that that they've had similar experiences and that they regret giving up their first love. But the point of the song is that it's not too late. Pretty much whatever it is that you're passionate about, whatever your first love was, whether that's music or art, whatever it is, like, it's not too late to do it. You can do it, and it's scary, but it's infinitely better to do something and even fail miserably at it. Like, I look back at those first few lyrics that I wrote, and even though I was super proud that I did it, they're dog shit compared to the stuff that I'm writing now. But it doesn't matter. The point is that I did it, and that got me back into doing it, and now I'm doing something that I love and that I'm really proud of. So that's the message of the song, and that's what I want people to get from it as well. It's not supposed to make them feel bad about the fact that they're not doing what they're passionate about. It's supposed to inspire them and make them want to pick it up and do it again, because you can. So in my behind the scenes video for First Love, I mentioned that if you guys had any questions about the song, to leave them as comments and I'd do my best to answer them. So I'm going to do that now. I've had a couple, and Connor Mouse asks, does this song link back to one of your videos where you said about how you could either get a job or go freelance? Is this song an interpretation of that? And the answer is, first of all, well done, good memory, because that video came out in 2016. And yes, that video I recorded literally when I left the business that this song is about. So the video is called I Quit My Job Today. You can watch it here, and I'll also leave a link in the description below. But yes, absolutely, that video is, or was, specifically about the business that this song is about. This one isn't really about the song, it's more about the album, but I just want you guys to know that I will answer your questions. So Skunky the Skunk asked, I've noticed that the album cover has changed. Could you give some insight about that? And yes, I can, Skunky. Basically, I really liked the album cover that Alex Moore came up with to begin with, but I was never 100% happy with the depiction of me on it. I didn't think it bore like a great resemblance, and also the angle that the hat was at was kind of like, it reminded me of like a sailor's hat basically, or like Napoleon or something. So I was okay with it, and obviously the album was delayed massively anyway, so I didn't really want any more hold-ups, but I was about to get them sent off to print the CDs, and I thought, wait a minute, hold on, because this is my first album. Once these are printed, they're out there then, there's no going back, they're out in the world, and yeah, it's been delayed, but I'm also, you know, I don't want to rush it at the last minute and it not be quite right. So I messaged Alex, explained, she was really cool with it, did like a new version of me, which I was much happier with, and yeah, so that's why it's a slightly different cover now, so you can see them side by side, and I personally much prefer the new one. I'd be interested to hear what you lot think too. Cool, so that's it for this Behind the Bars. I hope I answered all your questions. It was a long one, so big up for staying in there. Thank you very much for watching. The next music video is going to be out on December the 7th, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. And if you haven't already, please do grab a copy of the album with the new artwork. It is hard work trying to make a living out of this. I'm still not quite there yet. I need all your support to make this happen. So yeah, grab yourself a copy, either digital or physical, and I can sign it for you as well. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, guys. I will catch you very soon. Cheers. Peace.